Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar on the naming new features in version 9.4. As you know, the Dynamicweb 9.4 was released in January, and in this version there are a couple of new features in the PIM module. Now this is the first out of 5 webinars we will held in the spring, and hope you will follow them. Now, I'm your speaker of today, and all the features and functionalities I will talk about is within our PIM module in our Dynamicweb all-in-one platform. The agenda for today is why do we need product versioning, and how does it work, and how can we compare versions, and finally we can preview the product versioning in live preview. So today's session explaining the product versioning, new functionality in 9.4, I estimated to be in 20 minutes. So let's start. Why do we need product versioning? Now, as you know, when you have a product and it's published in your on your shops or in printing channels or whatever, you have your static information on the product. You have the description, you have the teaser text, you have all your equipment details and so on. Now, let's say at the end of the year 2017, we want to come out with the product in the 2018 with some new features, with some new equipments on the bike. Now, the bike itself is still the same. This is just the equipment and maybe the details that are changed on this new model of the bike. Now, to make these changes, we can go in and do that immediately, and the change will appear on the published version immediately. That can of course be useful, but sometimes it can also be needed that you can make your changes, you can make your update on your product without having influence or disturbing the published version. So that means that the published version will stay and appear as it is, and you can make your changes, you can make your approval and previews and everything without disturbing the published version. So that's why we have added this functionality with versioning on the products in the PIM. So how does it work? Now, for those of you that know about PIM, you know you can go in to the PIM area, you can select your languages you want to work on and your products and product variants and so on, and you can make your changes and you can save them. But it's now implemented a versioning area in the tab in the PIM area. So when you go into the workflow tab, you will see that you have a button called the use draft. So basically, if you're on a product, say, I want to work with this product in draft mode, then you can work on the product in PIM, you can make your changes, you can make your previews and so on, without disturbing the published version. When you're working on draft mode, you will also make a list of versioning. So each time you make changes and you publish it and you make new changes, you can get a list of all the versions and you can compare all the versions you have been made on the product. So let's take a look. If you go to our system in our front end, you can see I have this product, and I will be working on this one down here. Candidate CFR comp number 1, and you can see I have these informations on the published version. I have this description and my details is down here. Basically focusing on the brakes and the number of gears. Now when I log into the PIM system, I log into the backend, I go to my PIM area, I get my dashboard, I just want to look at, let's say I'm a technical guy, I have to enrich technical details or make changes to technical details. I take the product down here, and if you take a look here, you can see that in my PIM system, I have the 21 gears. In my brakes, I will change it to Ultegra R8000. So these are the changes for the 2018 model. Again, compared to what you saw on the in the shop, in the front end, was 22 gears and brakes the Shimano 105. So as you can see, I have made changes in the PIM system, and they had not had influence on the products in the front end or in the shop. And this is because I had selected this used draft model when I start to edit this product details. So when I'm working on it, I can make all the changes I want, and I can make previews, I can do anything on the product now without influencing on the published version, because I have selected to use draft mode. Now, when using draft mode, I have also this button called the versioning. And as you can see, I have a list of the changes that have been on this product. The first changes have been the 12th of February, and then there have been made changes today. I see all the changes. I can also select, I only want to see the English changes. So then I only can see in the list the English changes that have been on this product. So if I have French changes or German changes, I'll just get them into the list. So that gives a good overview of which changes have been made on this product and what time has it been published and approved. Now, when we make the changes, it's quite important that we also can compare the different versions, because we can't remember that. So because of this versioning, it's needed to have an overview of which fields have been changed on the product. So therefore, there are an overview inside here. With versioning, I can say compare. So if I press compare on this line now, I will look at my English changes that have been made or modified last time today, 11/13, and it's not published yet. So I press the compare button, and you can see that all the fields that have been changed from the published version and the current version, that's the version I have selected for changed, is my price. I have changed my description field. I have changed my teaser text. I have changed, if you go further down, if you go to the brake, the number of gears have been changed from 22 to 21, and it's highlighted in the right hand side. And the brakes are changed from the Shimano 105 to Ultegra R8000. And again, it's highlighted on the right hand side. So still, in the front end, you can see on this product, I still have my brakes Shimano 105 and the gears is 22. So I have made the changes without influencing on the published version. Now, if I just go back and say, I want to see the preview of this product at the moment, I can just say preview. And as you remember, in the previous version of PIM, you can make a live preview within the PIM system. Now, there have been changes here because I can now say that I want to see the preview of my draft version of the product. So the draft version, you can see I have added this line, and I can see that it's with English version and the published version, and you can see that down here, I have my 22 gears and brakes 105. And you can see the new market is 2080. If I then change my publish date to the draft version, you can then see the changes that are in the draft mode. And I can switch between the Danish and the English version and compare it with the published version and the draft version immediately in the preview. So the compare functionality is quite useful to find out which changes have been made on the product and what do we have to be aware of if we should have made changes to other languages as well. And again, we can make all the changes we want without they have influence on the published version. So then we can have what I have explained before. We have the possibility of making these live previews. Now, if we go back and take the live previews, as you saw, I can select between the different languages that have been changes on. I can decide if it should be in publish mode or draft mode. And if I had variants on it, I can also switch between the variants. So the preview itself have a lot of functionalities. Now, when this one has been finished and made approved by the people that are responsible for that, I can go in and I can say in my area that I want to approve it. So what will happen now is when I approve it, it will be switched to my to the published version, and the draft version will be the published version, and the published version now will be moved into a history as an archived version. Now let's press approve, get it here, and save it. I go back to my front end, make an update, go back, scan date, go down to the product, and now you see the published version have now these changes because I have just approved the draft version. And down here you can see my gear have changed to 21, and the Ultegra, the brakes have been changed to Ultegra R8000. So all the work with the changes can be done without influencing on the published version. And that the one I show now is the published version on the shop, but it could also be the material you could download for use in InDesign or to other channels you want to distribute your product data. And if you get new changes to this product, we can just go back, take the product, go to the workflow and say use draft. As soon as this button is highlighted, we are working in draft mode. So all changes I make here will not have influence on the published version and will only be done in the draft mode and will first be published when you approve it. So as you can see, all the functionalities with preview on the products are working in both draft mode and the publish mode. If you want to read more about this functionality, you can find it on our website, on the doc site, or on the website in the PIM area, where we describe the functionalities, all the new functionalities we have in the PIM setup. I hope you will come back the 9th of March, where we will go through the second part of our webinars in this series of 5, where I'll explain the product workflows, how to use that, and how to define that in the PIM solution.